The garden was silent, except for the whisper of cherry blossoms falling like fragile promises. I was 18, caught in the suffocating weight of a truth I couldn't name, when Ethan, my stepbrother, looked at me with eyes that held a secret too heavy for words. That afternoon, under the fading light of a Virginia summer, everything I thought I knew about myself shattered. My name is Lucas Bennett, and I grew up in a postcard-perfect neighborhood in Richmond, where picket fences and polite smiles hid the messiness of real life. My mom married Ethan's dad, Tom, when I was 12, blending our families into a fragile truce of shared dinners and forced small talk. Ethan was 16 then, a quiet kid with blonde curls and a smile that could charm anyone, except me. I resented him, not because he was unkind, but because he was everything I wasn't. Confident, athletic, the golden boy who seemed to glide through life while I stumbled. School was a battlefield of whispers and sideways glances for me. The skinny kid who spent too much time sketching in notebooks instead of throwing footballs. I didn't fit in, and I hated Ethan for fitting in so effortlessly. But that summer, something shifted. Ethan started lingering after dinner, asking about my drawings or offering to help with my half-hearted attempts at gardening. I brushed him off, assuming he was just bored. Then came the day Mom and Tom left for a weekend getaway, leaving us alone in the house. I was in the backyard, wrestling with a stubborn rosebush, when Ethan appeared, carrying 2 iced teas and a nervous energy I'd never seen in him before. "Lucas, can we talk?" he asked, his voice low, almost swallowed by the hum of cicadas. He sat on the bench, patting the space beside him. I hesitated, dirt smudged on my hands, but something in his eyes, raw, unguarded, made me sit. "I've been wanting to tell you something," he said, staring at the ground. "But it's hard, really hard." His fingers twisted together, and I noticed the way his shoulders tensed, like he was bracing for a blow. I didn't know why, but my heart started pounding, as if his secret was somehow tied to mine. "What is it?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The air felt thick, charged with something I couldn't name. He looked up, his blue eyes catching the sunlight, and said, "I'm gay, Lucas. I've known for years, but I've never told anyone. Not Dad, not my friends. Nobody." The words hung between us, fragile and heavy, like the blossoms drifting to the ground. I froze, my mind racing. Ethan, the perfect son, the star athlete, was carrying a secret just like mine. I'd spent years hiding my own feelings, terrified of what they meant, and now here he was, laying his truth bare. I wanted to say something, anything, but my throat closed up. Instead, I reached out, my hand brushing his on the bench. It was an accident, or maybe it wasn't, but the touch sent a jolt through me, like I'd been asleep my whole life and was finally waking up. His eyes met mine, and for the first time I saw him. Not the golden boy, not my stepbrother, but Ethan, vulnerable and real. "Why are you telling me this?" I finally managed, my voice shaking. He smiled, but it was sad, almost broken. "Because I trust you," he said, "and because I see the way you look at the world, like you're carrying something heavy too. Am I wrong?" He wasn't wrong. I'd known for years that I wasn't like the other guys at school, that the feelings I buried weren't just a phase. But admitting it, even to myself, felt like stepping off a cliff. Now Ethan was standing at the edge with me, waiting for me to jump. "I don't know what I am," I admitted, my voice cracking. "I'm scared, Ethan. Scared of what it means, of what people will think." He nodded like he'd expected that. "Me too. But keeping it inside, it's like drowning slowly. I couldn't anymore, and I thought maybe you'd understand." We sat there, the silence stretching between us, but it wasn't empty. It was full of everything we weren't ready to say. The sun dipped lower, casting long shadows across the garden, and I realized I'd never felt so seen. Not by Mom, not by my friends, not even by myself. Ethan's confession wasn't just about him. It was an invitation, a hand reaching out to pull me from the dark. That night I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying his words, the way his hand felt against mine, the way his eyes held mine without judgment. For the first time, I let myself imagine what it would be like to stop hiding, to let someone in. But with that hope came fear, fear of what our parents would say, what our town would think, what it would mean for the fragile balance of our family. The next morning, Ethan was quieter than usual, but there was a new warmth in the way he looked at me, like we were sharing a secret language. We didn't talk about it again, not yet, but something had changed. The garden, once just a patch of dirt and flowers, felt like sacred ground, the place where our truths had collided. Over the next few weeks, we grew closer, stealing moments in the garden or late at night when the house was quiet. We talked about everything. Our fears, our dreams, the boys we'd noticed but never dared approach. It was exhilarating, like shedding a skin I'd outgrown, but it was also terrifying. Every laugh, every glance, felt like a step towards something dangerous. I didn't know if I was falling for Ethan or just for the idea of being free, but the line between stepbrother and something more was blurring, and I wasn't sure how to stop it or if I wanted to. By August, the Virginia heat was relentless, mirroring the tension building inside me. Ethan and I were orbiting each other, our conversations laced with unspoken questions. Every touch, a brush of shoulders, a hand lingering too long, felt like a spark that could ignite everything we'd been avoiding. School was starting soon, and with it came the dread of returning to the whispers and judgment. I'd always been the odd one out, but now I carried a secret that felt bigger than myself. Ethan, though, seemed different. He'd always been untouchable, the guy everyone loved, but now I saw the cracks in his armor. The way his smile faltered when his dad talked about finding a nice girl, or when his teammates made crude jokes in the locker room. I wanted to protect him, but I was barely keeping myself together. One evening, we were in the garden again, the air thick with the scent of honeysuckle. Ethan was quieter than usual, his hands fidgeting with a blade of grass. "Lucas," he said suddenly, "do you ever think about us? Like what this could be?" My heart stopped. I thought about it too much, maybe, but hearing him say it out loud made it real. "What do you mean?" I asked, playing dumb because I was terrified of where this was going. He turned to me, his eyes searching. "I mean, I feel something when I'm with you, something I've never felt with anyone else. And I know it's complicated, but I can't keep pretending it's not there." I swallowed hard, my mind screaming at me to shut this down, to protect the fragile balance of our family. But my heart had other plans. "I feel it too," I admitted, my voice barely audible. "But Ethan, we're stepbrothers. If anyone found out—" "I know," he said, his voice heavy, "but I can't help it. I've spent so long hiding who I am, and with you I don't have to. I don't want to lose that." The air between us crackled, and before I could think, I leaned in, closing the distance. Our lips met, tentative at first, then desperate, like we'd been starving for this moment. It was reckless, dangerous, but in that instant nothing else mattered. The world was just us, the garden, and the truth we'd finally let breathe. But the world has a way of intruding. The next day, Ethan's dad, Tom, came home early from work and caught us laughing too close in the kitchen, our hands brushing as we washed dishes. He didn't say anything, but his eyes narrowed, and I felt the weight of his suspicions settle over us like a storm cloud. That night, at dinner, he started asking pointed questions about Ethan's plans for college, about why we were spending so much time together. Mom chimed in, oblivious, but Tom's tone was sharp, like he was testing us. Ethan played it off, his charm disarming as always, but I could see the strain in his eyes. Later, in the garden, he grabbed my hand, his grip tight. "We have to be careful," he whispered. "Dad's not stupid. If he figures it out, he'll lose it." I nodded, but my stomach twisted. Tom was a good man, but he was old school, raised in a world where people like us were whispered about, not accepted. Mom was more open-minded, but even she had her limits. The thought of them finding out, of the family fracturing, made me feel sick. Still, we couldn't stop. The stolen moments, the whispered confessions, the way Ethan's laugh made my chest ache. It was addictive. We started sneaking out at night, meeting in the garden or driving to a quiet park where no one knew us. Every moment felt like borrowed time, but it was worth it to feel alive, to feel like I wasn't alone. Then came the night that changed everything. We were at the park, lying on a blanket under the stars, when Ethan turned to me, his voice soft but serious. "Lucas, I want to tell them. Mom and Dad, I'm tired of hiding. I want to be with you for real." I froze, the weight of his words crashing over me. "Ethan, they'll hate us. They'll think it's wrong." "Maybe," he said, his eyes fierce, "but I'd rather face that than spend my life pretending. Don't you want that too?" I did. God, I did. But the fear was stronger, clawing at me, whispering all the ways this could go wrong. I didn't answer, and the silence stretched between us, heavy with everything we weren't ready to face. The weeks that followed were a tightrope walk. Ethan's determination to come out to our parents gnawed at me, a constant reminder of the cliff we were inching toward. I wanted to be brave like him, but every time I imagined telling Mom and Tom, I saw their faces twisting in disgust, the family we'd stitched together unraveling. School started, and the pressure only grew. Ethan was back on the soccer field, the golden boy again, but I noticed the way he tensed when his teammates slung careless slurs. I kept my head down, sketching in the library during lunch to avoid the cafeteria's judgmental eyes. But Ethan started seeking me out, sitting with me in the halls, his presence both a comfort and a spotlight. People noticed, classmates, teachers, even the janitor who gave us a knowing look one afternoon. The whispers grew louder, and I felt like I was drowning in them. One night, after a particularly tense dinner where Tom grilled Ethan about his future plans, we escaped to the garden. Ethan was pacing, his usual calm replaced by a restless energy. "I can't keep doing this, Lucas," he said, his voice breaking. "I can't keep lying to them, to myself. I want to be honest." "Then what?" I snapped, fear making me sharp. "You tell them, and what happens? They kick us out? They send us to some conversion camp? You know how people around here are." He stopped pacing, his eyes softening. "I know it's scary, but we're stronger than this. Together, we can face anything." His words were a lifeline, but I wasn't ready to grab it. Instead, I kissed him, desperate to hold on to the moment before everything fell apart. The garden felt like our only safe place, the one corner of the world where we could be us. But even that was slipping away. The next day, disaster struck. Ethan's phone buzzed during breakfast, and when he checked it, his face went pale. It was a text from his teammate, Jake, with a blurry photo of us in the park, our hands intertwined. "What's this, man?" the message read. "You and your stepbrother? People are talking." My heart plummeted. Ethan tried to play it off, texting back something vague, but the damage was done. By lunch, the photo was circulating, and the whispers became shouts. Kids I barely knew cornered me in the hall, their words cutting like knives. "Freak! Disgusting!" I wanted to disappear, but there was nowhere to go. Ethan found me in the library, his face flushed with anger. "I'm handling it," he said, his voice low. "Jake's an idiot. I told him it's nothing, that we're just close." "But it's not nothing," I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. "And now everyone knows." He grabbed my hand, hidden behind a stack of books. "Let them talk. I don't care. I care about you." But I cared. I cared about the stares, the rumors, the way Mom's smile faltered when she picked me up from school that day, like she'd heard something. That night, Tom called Ethan into his study, and I sat outside the door, my heart in my throat. I couldn't hear everything, but Tom's voice was loud, sharp, demanding answers. Ethan's responses were quieter, but I caught fragments. "It's not like that. You don't understand." When he came out, his eyes were red, and he wouldn't look at me. Later, in the garden, he told me what happened. "Dad thinks something's going on." He didn't say it outright, but he's suspicious. He asked if I was. I didn't deny it, Lucas. I couldn't. I felt like the ground was crumbling beneath me. What did he say? He said I need to think about my future, about what's right. He's not ready to hear it. Ethan's voice cracked, and he looked away, his hands trembling. But I'm not backing down. I'm done hiding. I wanted to be as brave as him, but all I could think about was the fallout. Our parents, our friends, the town that would never let us forget. I pulled him close, burying my face in his shoulder, and for a moment, the world was just us again. But I knew it couldn't last. The rumors spread like wildfire, and by the end of the week, our lives were unraveling. At school, Ethan's teammates distanced themselves, their jokes replaced by cold shoulders. I overheard Mom talking to Tom in hushed tones, their voices thick with worry. "Is it true?" she asked. "Are they together?" Tom didn't answer, but the silence was answer enough. I felt like a stranger in my own home. Mom kept looking at me like she was trying to solve a puzzle, and Tom's disapproval hung over us like a storm cloud. Ethan, though, was defiant. He started holding my hand in public, daring the world to say something. It was exhilarating and terrifying, like standing in the path of a hurricane. One night, we were in the garden, the air cool with the first hint of fall. Ethan was quieter than usual, his eyes distant. "I'm going to tell them," he said finally. "Tomorrow. I can't keep living like this." My stomach twisted. "Ethan, wait. We need a plan. We need—" "No." He cut me off, his voice firm. "I'm done waiting. I love you, Lucas. I'm not ashamed of that. And I'm not going to let fear stop me from being who I am." His words hit me like a tidal wave. Love. He'd said it, and now it was real, undeniable. I wanted to say it back, but the words caught in my throat, tangled with fear and hope and everything in between. Instead, I kissed him, pouring everything I couldn't say into that moment. The next evening, Ethan called a family meeting. My heart pounded as we sat in the living room, Mom and Tom on one side, Ethan and me on the other. The air was thick with tension, like the moment before a storm breaks. Ethan took a deep breath, his hand finding mine under the table. "Dad, Mom," he began, his voice steady despite the tremor in his hands. "I'm gay, and I'm in love with Lucas. We're together." The silence was deafening. Mom's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth. Tom's face hardened, his jaw tight. "What are you saying, Ethan?" he asked, his voice low and dangerous. "I'm saying I love him," Ethan repeated, his grip on my hand tightening. "And I'm not going to hide it anymore." Mom started crying, soft, choked sobs that broke my heart. Tom stood, pacing the room. "This isn't right," he said. "You're brothers. It's wrong." "We're not brothers," Ethan shot back. "We're stepbrothers. And we love each other. That's what matters." The argument escalated, voices rising, words cutting deeper with every exchange. Mom begged us to think about the family, while Tom accused Ethan of throwing his future away. I sat there, mute, my heart tearing in two. I wanted to stand with Ethan, to be as brave as he was, but the weight of their disapproval was crushing. Finally, Tom slammed his hand on the table. "This stops now," he said. "You're not doing this under my roof." Ethan stood, pulling me up with him. "Then we'll leave," he said, his voice shaking but resolute. "I'm not going to live a lie for you." We left the room, the weight of their shock and anger trailing us like smoke. In the garden, Ethan pulled me into his arms, and I finally let myself cry. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "I should have said something. I should have." "It's okay," he said, his voice soft but strong. "We'll figure it out. Together." But I wasn't sure we could. The world felt too big, too cruel, and I didn't know if love was enough to carry us through. The days after the confrontation were a blur of pain and defiance. Ethan and I moved out, crashing with a friend from school who didn't ask questions. The distance from home gave us space to breathe, but it also made the fracture in our family feel permanent. Mom called, her voice thick with tears, begging us to come back, to fix this. Tom didn't call at all. We found a small apartment in Richmond, scraping together money from part-time jobs. It wasn't much, but it was ours, a tiny sanctuary where we could be ourselves. Ethan was my rock, his optimism a light in the darkness. But I carried the weight of our family's rejection, the fear that we'd never belong anywhere again. One night, as we lay in bed, Ethan traced circles on my palm. "Do you regret it?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I thought about the garden, the moment he'd shared his truth, the way it had changed me. I thought about the pain, the fear, the uncertainty. And then I thought about him, his laugh, his courage, the way he made me feel like I was enough. "No," I said, and I meant it. "I'd do it all again for you." He smiled, and for the first time I said it back. "I love you, Ethan." Life wasn't easy. We faced judgment everywhere. Sneers from strangers, whispers at work, the ache of our parents' silence. But we also found allies. A coworker who invited us to a local LGBTQ support group, a neighbor who left homemade cookies at our door. Slowly, we built a new family, one that accepted us for who we were. Months later, Mom reached out. She wanted to meet, to talk. We met at a coffee shop, and she looked older, her eyes heavy with regret. "I don't understand it," she said, her voice trembling. "But I miss you. Both of you." It wasn't acceptance, not yet, but it was a start. Tom was still distant, but Mom's effort gave me hope that maybe, one day we could rebuild. Ethan squeezed my hand under the table, his smile a reminder that we'd already faced the worst and come out stronger. The garden where it all began became a memory, a symbol of the moment we chose truth over fear. We visited it one last time, standing under the cherry tree where Ethan had shared his secret. The blossoms were gone, but the tree stood tall, its roots deep and unyielding, like us. Our love wasn't just a rebellion against a world that didn't understand. It was a promise to each other, to ourselves, that we'd keep fighting for a life where we could be whole. And as we stood there, hand in hand, I knew that no matter what came next, we'd face it together. The truth had set us free, and I was never the same.